What's going on, guys? HitPaws here for the next part of this tutorial. And in this part of the tutorial, I'm going to do a death animation. Now, I just want to let you guys know that the recording screwed up about 10 minutes into the process. And instead of going back and undoing everything I've done so I could show you how I did it, I'm just going to explain really quickly what I have done and what I'm going to do. So the idea is that when this guy catches you, he is going to kill you. And I don't want that to just be him playing an animation and let the player just look wherever they want. I want them to see this. I'm going to force it. So the idea is I'm going to do more of a cinematic kill animation, and I'm going to force the player's camera to look at this guy. So what I've actually done, if you take a look here on him, is I've actually given him, in his skeleton, a camera bone. Okay, something that I can link a camera to and animate, so I can really have very, very specific control over what I'm looking at. Now, the way I did that in Max was I simply created a pyramid called B_camera that is linked to his body, okay, but it is also link constrained to a hidden object here, so that when his body moves around, the camera doesn't move around. So that way, when I take a look, he's animating, but you notice that the camera is not moving. The reason it's not moving, it would move if I didn't have it link constrained, because its parent, if you look here at the camera, in line here, its parent is the thorax. It's in the same line here as its abdomen, which is back here, and all of the legs and the head, and all of those, their parent is the main hub here. So the camera is on that same level. You can see it's in line with all of these guys, okay? And without it being link constrained, let me just, let's see, do I have a strength here? Here, I'll delete the link temporarily, and I'll show you guys, why did that work? Why doesn't that actually go back? Well, I think because I linked it in the first place, it officially pulled it off. Position. Delete link. Let me see if I move this. No. Interesting. Interesting. Maybe I don't need to do that. I know I needed to do it in the first place, and the reason was, like I said, it was moving with the body, and I don't want that to happen. I want the camera to be like it's you, and I'll be able to control where it looks and all that stuff. But yeah, for some weird reason, I guess once I've activated the link constraint, then it officially, it officially goes back to. It just becomes unlinked permanently from him. However, it is still part of the hierarchy, okay? And that's the good thing. So I'm just going to hide that, and I'm going to hide that. So the idea is that what's going to happen is I've given myself a lot more frames here now. Usually it was 80. Now I've changed it to 200. So the idea is I have a bone now to control a camera, which if I rotate around, I can actually control where the player looks, so I can make him go, no, no, if I wanted to, right? And what I've done here is I've given myself 30 frames, which will be 1 second, and what this is this is kind of like, he's going to get into like this pose, right? And the idea is that I'm going to use this 1 second to blend from my first person character to this guy's character view. Okay, and then once it's blended, then I'll start the actual death animation. And I'm going to keep it kind of simple at first, and then I can go in and I can layer more behavior, because right now, because this is like a technical thing that I'm trying to do here, I need to make sure that it's actually going to work. So I'm going to give him a fairly simple animation, and I'm not going to really worry about the fine details. And then I'm going to go into UE4 and I want to test it. Now you'll notice that the camera is located at 128 units in the Z. The reason for that is if I look at the first person character, you can see that my camera is actually located 64 units in the Z, but that is 64 units from the center of the actor. The center of the actor is actually in the center of the capsule here. Like if I choose the capsule, well, you can see that the root point is right here where that blue arrow is. Okay, and remember the capsule is an equal distant. The root is dead center, so it's equally as it goes equally as high over Z and equally below the ground. And when you place the character in the level, it anchors it so that the bottom of the cylinder is at the ground. So to get the camera to be at the same height that it originally was, I need to double. Okay, so it's hopefully makes perfectly clear sense. Because if I look at the view here, I placed a first-person character just in front of him, and you can see what I'm seeing. I'm just about barely seeing his neck. And if we look here, I'm basically looking over the top of him, but I'm also like quite a bit farther, quite a bit closer to him right now. If I move it back, he's about like right there or something. So what I can do is, like I said, transition to this camera. So I'm assuming that the player is going to be looking about this close. And this is, I may have to come in and fudge the whole thing so it's moved a little bit forward and backwards. And I'm probably going to have to do some back and forth tweaking to make sure that I don't have too much near clipping and all that stuff when this thing goes right at the camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep going. Hopefully that was enough to get you guys started if you wanted to do this. So the first thing is that he goes into this pose. Okay. Now I'm thinking I'm actually going to just blend him into this pose, and eventually I'll walk him in, because if you look right now from 0, that's his idle, to the pose, he just slides his feet into that position. And like I said, that's like a detail. Like I can get him to walk his feet into the position, and stagger it, so that foot, then that foot, then that foot, then that foot, just like I've been doing. But in this case, because I'm just testing theory, I'm not going to worry about that right now. So at the moment, and I also did create a brand new absolute layer, and I built it off of idle. Okay, so what I did was I came here, I went to frame 0, I made sure that idle was not ignored, okay, and then I created the new layer which captured this pose. Alright, so we come back here, unignore. So as you can see here, if I ignore and unignore, there's no difference between the start of this and the start of idle. So he goes into this pose, and then at this point here, the camera should be now locked into this position. So I'm giving myself a second to blend it over so it's not just a snap and it's jarring. I don't want the player to get like jarred in that way, make it feel glitchy. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this, like I said, fairly simple. I just want to test theory. I'm going to launch him up at the camera. That's the upper jaw. Let's get the lower jaw. Now this is kind of slow. I'm actually going to lock a keyframe for everything at 30 and then come here that way, and I'll just do it on 60, and if I want to I can just select everything and move that keyframe around to speed it up or slow it down. Okay, and then we'll lock everything there. Alright, so let's get these 2 feet, bring them up. Shit. Definitely do not want to activate this view and move it around because it will move the camera. You gotta be kind of careful about that. So just pose to pose animation. kind of want to line these up. Okay, so if we look at the camera view, so the camera actually looks down at him now. Alright, and then what I want to do is I'm going to move him more forward over the course of the next couple of frames. Actually, I should lock those. I should freeze them. Let's go ahead and do that. So those are frozen. Now I can just hit Control A, right? I can lock a keyframe. Alright. So I'm going to keep them coming a little bit more forward. I know I'm raising him up off the ground now, but the idea is that he's jumping onto you. So I want these to go past you. So his legs are now on you, right? They are officially on you. Let's take a look at that really quick. Okay, so he's on you now. And at this frame here, what I'm going to do is, actually, let's, just in case something goes horribly wrong. I'm just going to save it as a new file, just in case something goes horribly wrong. So what I want to do is at this frame, I want to link the camera to his head. Okay. Okay, and that goes at frame 80. But you'll notice at frame 0 and all that, that the camera starts like screwing off on me. Okay, so let's undo that really quick. And what we want to do is we want to go to frame 0 and link to world. Okay, let's just check the animation. And everything's good. Then at frame 80, we'll add the link to the head. And then we check. And now you can see that I haven't broken anything. Alright. Okay, so we'll go another couple frames forward. We'll hit Control A and we'll link that. And now, as I come down, you can see that I can bring him down because I want him to slam you to the ground. Let's zero those guys out. Pull those down to be 0 as well. Okay, because remember, behind him is going to be the scenery, right? So even though my camera is locked on, so at this point it should feel like he's actually bitten your head, like, and he's locked onto your head. So he comes up and then grabs your head, and now you're locked onto his head, right? So, and I can make that a little bit more dramatic while we're here, just by, let's see, we'll keyframe right there, and then we'll keyframe right there, and then what I'll do is just close that just a little bit so it feels a little bit like there's teeth right in your face. And then we got to make sure that they don't reopen because I did already capture a keyframe up here, so we'll just replace that guy. Okay, and boom. So he comes in, grabs you, and then he slams you down. Okay, and then what we'll do is, I'm thinking at this point I want to actually unlock the camera from him. Okay, so we'll go back to linking to world. Boom. Alright, so we're at world at 0, then we link to his head at 80, and then 20 frames later we go back to world. That way, just lock a new keyframe. Now I can go back to having him don't want to move those, by the way. We'll have him inspect you for a moment. Let's kick this up to 110. Okay. And what we'll do is I wanna actually have this just have like a little bit of a bounce. So he goes boom, and then actually I want that to come down more. Okay, it's important that I don't push the camera through the floor. Okay, we'll just keep going. Like I said, I can clean it up later. So Control A, click, and we'll go another 20 frames. And this time he will look at you through the other eye. Okay, and he'll get a little bit closer. I'm not worried about his legs back here because they're going to be totally out of the camera. So he grabs you. Remember, I'm looking over here. Let's hold that pose for a little bit on his head. He looks, then he screeches up. Oops, grabbed the wrong bone. Okay, so and when he does this, I want him to lift up just a little bit. So you're looking like right under him. And then, so Control A, click that, and then quite quickly, he comes down. And this time, stabs you right in the face. Right off the side of the camera. Okay. I'm going to end there. So stab, and then it'll just stab you twice for now. So stab, stab, and the next time he stabs on the last stab, he comes in literally all the way in. Might be too close for the clipping plane. And I'll just close the jaws just a little bit. I'm going to hit Alt-X on these guys to make them slightly invisible so I can see where his mouth is. Alright, so let's activate this and then let's hit play and let's just take a look. very quick, but again, I am in 1x, or I was in 4x, so just do it at full speed, at normal speed. Probably a little slow. This right here, where he comes down and holds it, it's very stiff, and he looks like the whole animation freezes, and somebody might actually go, oh, did it freeze? Like, there's actually enough time for them to think that. So I really just need to just give him a little bit of movement. Is there any way for me to get this into view? That's going to be too far. Just get that going just a little bit like that. Alright. Okay, when he snaps, he's snapping his jaw closed a little bit too quickly here. So let's see if it feels any better when I pull that up that way. So yeah, so he closes his mouth. And if we do some screen effects that are timed with this, with some blood splurts that are shooting straight up away from you, it should work out pretty good, I think. I mean, it's nothing great right now. Let's just play it one last time. We'll give it a check. It's a little slow. So what I'll do is just speed this part up a little bit, where he grabs you. Okay, we can do camera animations, you know, to do some camera jitter and shaking and stuff like that, and we can layer in some more stuff and it should be alright. He might be getting too close to the camera and it might clip, but we're not entirely sure. But at this point right here, right when he comes in, let's actually change this to be 180. But right at the end, so he goes like that, we're going to cut straight to black at this exact instant. So the instant that it ends, we're cutting to black. Okay. There's a very unnatural bit of freezing going on in his body right here, so what I'll do is right here, I'll just give this a little bit of motion and do the same thing here. Alright, we'll go with that. We'll see what we get. Alright, click, control, page down. Remember, it gets all the things plus our new bone. Export, parasite anims, and this will be anim parasite. Kill cam 1, because I would like to do like several of them and make it randomized on what he actually does, you know. Sometimes he kills you quicker, maybe he'll play with you a little bit longer and drag, or maybe he'll even drag you away or something, you know, and before you pass out, you know, you start to black out. So we hit OK. Let's go ahead and save the scene. We'll come back into UE4 and go to anims. And let's go back to recent places here and kill cam 1. Okay, we do not want the mesh. And we do para. Okay, before I do this, I want to delete those and delete that folder. because I had to do a test to see where the camera was going to line up. So now I'll bring it in. There's no confusion now as to what skeleton I should be picking. So we don't want the mesh. Okay, parasite SK mesh skeleton. We import. Hopefully no errors. Okay, it's kind of generic looking from the outside, but you got to remember that you're going to be like looking at them like this, you know, you know, and the camera's actually going to be controlled. All right, and we can clean it up later when we get a better feel for it. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to end this part here. So that was how I actually built the animation. We do need to come in here. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to add a camera. Just do this really quick. We'll link it to the mesh, and then we can actually tell it to use the B camera here. And then what we need to do is zero everything out. And then if we remember, let's go back to max really quick. I do have to rotate the camera, and I think it's 180 back facing the other way. If I come here and I just turn off animation mode, I guess, oh yeah, you know what, the camera's never part of, it's never part of the weight, the cat rig, so it doesn't get driven by any of this stuff here. In fact, the camera's animations aren't even part of it. You can see it still animates, you know. So once we hit play here, it goes back to being correct. So I mean, we could have made it be we could have added a bone here, but I don't really want to do that. In fact, we probably should have done it to the head bone and actually made it a new bone, like we have the jaw bones here. But I think we'll be okay. We just need to figure out which direction that the camera needs to be turned when it actually plays. So what we can do is we can test it really quick by saying, what we'll do is we'll say none on the animation blueprint, and then we'll say use animation assets, and we'll say kill cam. Yeah, it's facing the right way. If we simulate this, then we crash. He's moving around still. It's not showing me his camera. Oh, there it goes, there it goes. Is it too close? I think it's totally too close. Out of curiosity, it doesn't feel too close here. It doesn't feel too close here. Well, I'm going to end the video here because the next part is going to be a lot more technical than the first part was. And I don't want to lump too much stuff in and have the video take too long. I know that my videos are notoriously extremely long, but I tend to do things that people don't normally do. Hopefully you guys understand why these things do take so long. I don't necessarily want to have a 10-hour series broken into 15-minute chunks and have 40 parts. You know, I think it's easier just to do hour chunks and 10 parts. So yeah, but I am going to end this one here. I think it's going to work. I'm not entirely sure yet. I know I don't need this player character here anymore. As you can see here, I do want to just fix him back here to be use animation blueprint and the parasite animation blueprint. Okay, so once we transition to this guy's camera, we should be fine. And the question is whether or not we are even allowed to do that, to set a view to the camera of another character. If it doesn't work like this, what we can do is we can simply create like a camera that's in the world that gets attached to him, and we can blend to that no problem. I know that. I know we can blend to other cameras no problem. The question, I've never tried blending to another character's camera. So we'll see what happens. Alright, so this is Hitpause signing off. Hopefully that was fun. It should be pretty cool, I think. Let's just play it one more time here. It doesn't really play very well here because there's no background reference. It will actually get a much better idea of what's going on if I were to say create a big ass sphere with like 128 segments or something, and come here and we actually go F4. See, now we actually have a reference, so when we play it, so we go see, so he's he's affecting the background. So just for, like I said, just for visual reference, but we can see what's going on here with you assume that's your head, yeah, I mean it looks like it might work. So we'll see what happens. Hitpause signing off. Thanks for watching.